I never believed in Christmas magic until that company party changed everything. My name is Lysander Belrose, but everyone calls me Ly, and I'd been working at Ashwick Enterprises for 6 months without my boss, Thorne Ashwick, even acknowledging my existence. Not a single glance. Not one word. Nothing. And honestly, I tried everything to get noticed, perfectly formatted reports, staying late to finish projects, even volunteering for the terrible assignments no one else wanted. But Thorne Ashwick remained as distant and unreachable as a star in the winter sky. He was the kind of man who could freeze a room with just a glance. Tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair that always looked perfectly tousled in that way that seemed effortless but probably wasn't. His eyes were this striking ice blue that could cut through steel, and his suits probably cost more than my entire year's rent. At 29, he'd already built Ashwick Enterprises into one of the most successful marketing firms in the city, and rumor had it he'd done it all without ever cracking a smile. Everyone was terrified of him. Everyone except me, apparently, because I'd developed the world's most inconvenient crush on the man. "You're staring again," Rowan whispered in my ear, making me jump and nearly spill my champagne all over my only decent suit. Rowan Fairchild was my best friend and the sole reason I hadn't quit this job 3 months ago when Thorne had walked past my desk 14 times in one day without a single acknowledgement. Rowan worked in HR and had the kind of effortless charm that made everyone love him instantly. Tonight, he looked annoyingly perfect in a deep green sweater that matched his eyes. I wasn't staring, I lied, taking a long sip of champagne. The office Christmas party was in full swing around us, complete with tacky decorations, terrible pop music versions of Christmas carols, and enough alcohol to make even the most boring accountants think they could dance. And I'm not gay. Rowan rolled his eyes. "Ly, you need to either talk to the man or get over this obsession. It's getting sad. It's not an obsession. It's professional admiration. You literally know his coffee order by heart. That's called being observant. You know what day he gets his dry cleaning delivered." I opened my mouth to argue but realized I had no defense for that one. Hey, fine. Maybe I pay attention to him. But it doesn't matter anyway. Thorne Ashwick doesn't even know I exist. To him, I'm just another nameless employee. Probably just that guy from marketing, if he thinks of me at all. Rowan's expression softened. "You deserve someone who sees you, Ly. Someone who appreciates how brilliant and kind and absolutely infuriating you are." "Thanks." I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. The champagne was starting to make everything feel warm and fuzzy around the edges. I'd lost count of how many glasses I'd had. 3? 4? The holiday spirit had apparently decided to possess my usually sensible self. "Oh no," Rowan said suddenly, his eyes widening. "Ly, don't look now, but guess who just walked in?" Of course I looked. Standing in the doorway like he'd rather be literally anywhere else was Thorne Ashwick himself. He usually skipped these company events, sending his assistant with some excuse about important meetings or prior commitments. But there he was, looking devastating in a black suit that probably cost more than my car, his expression set in that default cold mask he always wore. My heart did this stupid little flip in my chest that I absolutely hated. "Ly," Rowan said in that warning tone I knew too well. "What? You have that look. That dangerous, I've had too much champagne and I'm about to do something stupid look." "I do not have a look." "You absolutely have a look. Remember the karaoke incident? That was one time. And I was very drunk. You sang, 'I Will Always Love You,' while crying. The entire bar cried with you. It was traumatic for everyone involved." Before I could defend my past decisions, someone called Rowan over to help with something about the Secret Santa gifts. He shot me one last warning glance before disappearing into the crowd, leaving me alone with my champagne and my increasingly poor decision-making skills. That's when I noticed it. The mistletoe hanging from the archway near the windows. Some overly enthusiastic decorator had gone absolutely wild with the holiday theme, and this particular sprig of mistletoe was massive, hanging from a red velvet ribbon like something out of a cheesy romance movie. The champagne must have been stronger than I thought because suddenly I found myself walking toward it. Maybe it was the loneliness that always hit harder during the holidays. Maybe it was the exhaustion of spending 6 months invisible to the one person I desperately wanted to notice me. Or maybe I was just drunk and sad and tired of being practical, boring Lysander who never took risks and always played it safe. I stood beneath the mistletoe, feeling ridiculous. The music seemed distant now, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see snow beginning to fall over the city. It looked magical, like something out of a Christmas card. Closing my eyes, I made a wish. A stupid, impossible, champagne-fueled wish. I wish I could understand what it's like to be close to someone like Thorn Ashwick, even if just for one night. My voice was barely a whisper, lost in the noise of the party. I felt tears prick at my eyes. God, I was pathetic. Here I was, 23 years old, standing alone under mistletoe at a company Christmas party, wishing for something that would never happen. When I opened my eyes, my heart stopped. Thorn Ashwick was standing directly in front of me. I hadn't heard him approach. Hadn't sensed him moving through the crowd. But there he was, so close I could see the silver flecks in those ice blue eyes, could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody with hints of winter pine. Careful what you wish for, Belrose. His voice was deep, smooth like aged whiskey, and it sent shivers racing down my spine. He knew my name. Thorn Ashwick knew my name. I tried to respond, tried to say something, anything, that wouldn't make me sound like a complete idiot. But the room was spinning now, and those blue eyes were so intense, looking at me like he could see straight through to every secret I'd been keeping. Mr. Ashwick, The world tilted sideways. Then everything went black. That was my first conscious thought. A dull, throbbing headache that pulsed behind my eyes like someone was using my skull as a drum. My mouth tasted like I'd been licking the bottom of a shoe, and my body felt heavy, like I was wrapped in warm honey. No, not honey. My eyes flew open. This wasn't my apartment. My apartment had water-stained ceilings and walls so thin I could hear my neighbor's terrible taste in reality TV. This room had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline, gray morning light filtering through sheer curtains that probably cost more than my monthly salary. The bed I was lying in was enormous, covered in sheets that felt like liquid silver against my skin. Expensive cologne and winter pine filled my senses. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. I tried to sit up, but something stopped me. An arm. A very masculine, very muscular arm draped across my waist with casual possession, like it had every right to be there. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might actually break through my ribs. Slowly, terrified of what I'd find, I turned my head. Thorn Ashwick was sleeping beside me. His dark hair was messy for once, falling across his forehead in a way that made him look younger, almost vulnerable. His face was relaxed in sleep, those sharp features softened without the ice-cold mask he always wore. He was shirtless, I could see that much, one arm under his pillow, the other wrapped around me. We were in bed together. I was in Thorn Ashwick's bed. Panic seized my chest like a physical thing. I tried to piece together the previous night, but everything after standing under that mistletoe was a complete blank. How did I get here? What happened? Oh God, did we do something? I looked down at myself. I was wearing a t-shirt, definitely not mine, way too big, and my dress pants from last night. So at least I wasn't completely naked. That was something. Maybe? I needed to leave. Right now. Before he woke up and I had to face whatever embarrassing thing I'd apparently done last night. Before I had to see the disgust in those ice blue eyes when he realized he'd somehow ended up with his junior marketing analyst in his bed. Carefully, moving as slowly as possible, I tried to slip out from under his arm. The moment I moved, his grip tightened. Going somewhere, Lysander? His voice was rough with sleep, deeper than usual, and it did absolutely unfair things to my already racing heart. And he'd used my full name. Not Belrose, or you there, or any of the generic terms I'd imagined he'd use if he ever actually spoke to me. Lysander. My name sounded different in his mouth, intimate in a way that made my skin flush. Mr. Ashwick, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened last night. You should stop apologizing. He finally opened his eyes, and I found myself trapped in that ice-blue gaze. But something was different. The cold distance that was usually there had thawed, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. Something that looked almost tender? I was clearly still drunk or possibly having a nervous breakdown. But how did I even get here? Thorn shifted, propping himself up on one elbow, his arms still across my waist. He was studying me with an intensity that made me want to squirm. You made a wish. I granted it. What? My brain felt like it was moving through mud. That doesn't make any sense. Wishes aren't real. Magic isn't. My phone buzzed violently on the nightstand, making us both jump. I grabbed for it with shaking hands, desperate for any distraction from this surreal situation. Rowan's name lit up the screen, along with approximately 15 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic messages. Where are you? Lie, you left the party and no one knows where you went. I swear to God if you don't answer me in the next 5 minutes I'm calling the police. Cash and Vale was asking about you at the party. Said he saw you leave with someone. Lie, please tell me you didn't do something stupid. Cash and Vale. The name barely registered in my panicked brain, but apparently it registered in Thorne's because the moment he saw it on my screen, his entire demeanor changed. The softness vanished, replaced by something dark and dangerous. Stay away from Vale. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command, delivered in that cold CEO voice that made interns cry. I don't even know who Cash and Vale is, I said, pulling away from him and finally managing to sit up. The room spun slightly, but I forced myself to focus. Mr. Ashwick, I need you to tell me what happened last night. All of it. Because the last thing I remember is standing under mistletoe making a stupid drunken wish, and now I'm in your bed and you're acting like what? His jaw tightened. Like you actually know who I am. Like I'm not just another forgettable employee. The words burst out before I could stop them, months of frustration and hurt spilling over. You've never even looked at me before last night. Never said my name. Never acknowledged that I exist. And now I wake up here and you're I couldn't finish. Tears were burning behind my eyes and I absolutely refused to cry in front of Thorne Ashwick. I'd already humiliated myself enough for one lifetime. Lysander. His voice was softer now. You think I didn't know you existed? I know you didn't. I know your coffee order is a vanilla latte with oat milk and extra foam. I know you always arrive exactly 15 minutes early. I know you volunteer for the difficult projects because you want to prove yourself. I know you hum when you're concentrating, and you have this habit of pushing your hair back when you're stressed. He paused, something almost painful flickering across his face. I know you, Lysander Belrose. I've known you since the day you walked into my building. I stared at him, my mind refusing to process what he was saying. Before I could respond, his phone rang. The sound was jarring in the quiet intimacy of the moment. Thorne's face went pale as he glanced at the screen, and I saw something I'd never seen before in those ice blue eyes. He answered, and even from where I sat, I could hear the voice on the other end. Smooth, amused, dangerous. So you finally made your move on the boy. Interesting. I wonder what the board would think about their CEO seducing junior employees. The voice laughed, cold and calculated. This is going to be fun, Thorne. Very fun indeed. The call ended. Thorne sat frozen, his knuckles white around the phone. That was Cash and Vale, he said quietly. And somehow, he knows exactly where you are. The next few days were absolute torture. I'd left Thorne's penthouse that morning in a daze, his cryptic warnings about Cash and Vale echoing in my head. He'd called his driver to take me home, wouldn't let me take the subway despite my protests. The whole ride back to my tiny apartment, I kept replaying everything. The way he'd said my name, the fear in his eyes during that phone call, the feeling of waking up in his arms. But at the office? It was like that morning never happened. Thorne was back to being the Ice King though, striding through the halls with that cold, untouchable aura. He passed my desk twice on Monday without even a glance. In the elevator on Tuesday, we stood 3 feet apart in complete silence while I tried not to have a panic attack. Wednesday morning's department meeting, he looked right through me when I presented my quarterly analysis. It was driving me insane. Worse, I'd catch him watching me sometimes. I'd look up from my computer and find those ice blue eyes fixed on me with an expression I couldn't read, something intense and conflicted and almost hungry. But the moment our gazes met, he'd look away like I'd burned him. My heart couldn't take this whiplash. Either he felt something or he didn't. Either that morning meant something or it was just a drunken mistake we were both supposed to forget. You look like hell, Rowan announced, cornering me in the break room on Wednesday afternoon. He was holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing his concerned best friend face, which was never a good sign. Thanks. You really know how to make a guy feel special. Lie, I'm serious. You've been acting weird all week. You won't tell me what happened Friday night, you're jumping every time your phone buzzes, and you keep staring at Thorn like a sad puppy. He handed me one of the coffees. Talk to me. What's going on? I wanted to tell him. God, I wanted to tell someone about waking up in Thorn's bed, about the things he'd said, about Cashin Vale's threatening phone call. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the fear in Thorn's voice when he'd warned me to stay away from Vale. Maybe it was my own confusion about what any of it meant. It's nothing. Just party hangover. You know how it is. Rowan didn't look convinced, but before he could interrogate me further, his expression changed. His eyes widened, focused on something behind me. Lie, you need to tell me what's going on. Right now. The urgency in his voice made me turn around. Standing in the break room doorway was possibly the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. Tall, with golden blonde hair and green eyes that sparkled with mischief and danger in equal measure. His suit was perfectly tailored, and he wore a smile that probably made people hand over their credit cards and firstborn children. Everything about him screamed expensive, charming, and dangerous. Lysander Belrose, we finally meet properly. His voice was smooth, cultured, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't place. He crossed the room in 3 confident strides and extended his hand. I'm Cashin Vale. My blood turned to ice. This was the man from the phone call. The one who'd somehow known I was in Thorn's penthouse. The one Thorn had warned me about with genuine fear in his eyes. Up close, Cashin was even more intimidating. Not in the cold, distant way Thorn was intimidating, but in a predatory way, like a shark circling prey. His smile never reached his eyes. How do you know my name? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Oh, I make it my business to know interesting people. And you, Lysander, are very interesting. He leaned against the counter, completely at ease. I have a business proposition for you, one that might interest someone trapped under Thorn Ashwick's thumb. I'm not trapped under anyone's. My office. Now, Belrose. Thorn's voice cut through the room like a blade of ice. I hadn't even heard him approach, but suddenly he was there, filling the doorway with his presence. His expression was thunderous, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. But it was his eyes that shocked me. They were fixed on Cashin with pure, undiluted fury. Thorn, always a pleasure. Cashin's smile widened. I was just introducing myself to your very talented employee. Such a shame you've been hiding him away in marketing. A mind like his could be put to much better use. Get out of my building. No. Is that any way to treat a potential business partner? Cashin pushed off the counter, straightening his suit. Besides, I was invited. Something about a merger discussion? Your assistant scheduled it. Thorn's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit Cashin Vale right there in the break room. Lysander. My office. Now. He didn't wait for a response, just turned and walked away, clearly expecting me to follow. I glanced at Rowan, who looked completely lost, then back at Cashin, who was watching me with those calculating green eyes. We'll finish our conversation later, Lysander. I have a feeling you and I are going to become very good friends. The way he said it made my skin crawl. I practically ran to catch up with Thorn, following him through the maze of cubicles and into the elevator. The moment the doors closed, trapping us alone together, the careful mask he'd been wearing all week crumbled. Don't talk to him. Don't look at him. Don't even think about him. His voice was rough, almost desperate. Cashin Vale is dangerous, Lysander. More dangerous than you can possibly understand. Then explain it to me. The frustration I'd been holding back all week exploded. Explain what happened Friday night. Explain why he called you. Explain why you've been ignoring me for 3 days like I'm invisible. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor. Thorn's office was at the end of the hall, all glass and steel and intimidating minimalism. His assistant's desk was empty. She must have gone to lunch. He unlocked his office door and held it open, his expression unreadable. Once I was inside, he closed it and locked it behind us. The click of the lock seemed unnaturally loud. I need to tell you the truth about that night, about the wish, about everything. Thorn ran his hand through his dark hair, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely vulnerable. But like he was about to confess something that terrified him. That mistletoe wasn't just decoration, Lysander. It was something my grandmother enchanted years ago. Whoever makes a genuine wish beneath it will have their heart's desire revealed, even if just for 12 hours. I stared at him. You're telling me magic is real? I'm saying your wish revealed something I've been hiding for months. He took a step toward me, those ice-blue eyes burning with intensity. I'm completely, irrationally, dangerously in love with you, Lysander. I have been since the day you walked into your interview with that nervous smile and coffee stain on your resume. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. And Cashin knows it. He's been watching, waiting for me to slip up, to show weakness. Because he knows the fastest way to destroy me is through you. Before I could process this, before I could even begin to formulate a response, the office door crashed open. I spun around, and there was Cashin Vale, holding a tablet with a smile that made my blood run cold. The board meeting is in 10 minutes, Thorn. Either you step down as CEO, or these go public. He turned the tablet toward us, and my stomach dropped. Photos. Dozens of them. Thorn and me from Friday night, leaving the party together, in the car at his building. They were taken from a distance, slightly blurry, but unmistakable. And they looked far more intimate than I remembered. In some, Thorn's arm was around me. In others, we were close enough that it looked like we were kissing. Your choice, old friend, Cashin said pleasantly. Step down or watch your reputation burn. Unless. He turned that predatory smile toward me. Lysander agrees to come work for me instead. Time seemed to slow down. I could hear the clock on Thorn's wall ticking, each second impossibly loud. Could feel my heartbeat hammering in my throat. Could see Cashin's triumphant smile, Thorn's barely contained rage, and those photos on the tablet screen, evidence of something I couldn't even remember, being used as a weapon. 5 minutes. I had 5 minutes to make a decision that would change everything. The old Lysander, the one who played it safe, who never made waves, who spent 6 months invisible rather than risk rejection, would have panicked. Would have agreed to anything to make this situation go away. But something had shifted in me over the past few days. Maybe it was waking up in Thorn's arms. Maybe it was hearing him confess he'd been in love with me all along. Maybe it was just exhaustion from being pushed around by forces I didn't understand. Whatever it was, I felt anger rise up in my chest, hot and righteous and absolutely done with all of this. No. The word came out firm, surprising even myself. Both Thorn and Cashin turned to look at me like I'd grown a second head. I'm sorry, what? Cashin's smile faltered slightly. I said no. I took a step forward, my hands shaking but my voice steady. I'm not a bargaining chip, and I'm done with both of you making decisions about my life. I turned to face Cashin directly, forcing myself to meet those cold green eyes. Whatever photos you have, release them. I don't care. Post them on every social media platform you want. Send them to every news outlet in the city. Because here's the thing, I'm the one who initiated everything that night. It was a lie. I had no idea what actually happened that night. But I said it with enough conviction that I saw doubt flicker across Cashin's face. I'm 23 years old. Thorn is 29. We're both consenting adults. I pursued him. I kissed him. I asked to go home with him. Each lie came easier than the last. So if you're trying to paint this as some kind of workplace harassment situation, you're going to have a hard time when I'm willing to testify that I was the one who wouldn't take no for an answer. Cashin's jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Try me. I crossed my arms. I've got nothing to lose. I'm a junior analyst. I can get another job. But you? If it comes out that you've been stalking employees, taking photos without consent, attempting blackmail, pretty sure that's several different kinds of illegal. For the first time since he'd walked into the break room, Cashin looked uncertain. I turned to Thorn next, and God, the look on his face, shock, admiration, fear, and something that looked a lot like pride all mixed together. And you, I said, my voice softer but no less firm. If you really feel the way you say you do, then stop hiding behind your fear. I didn't wish to understand you from a distance. I wish to be close to you, and that means trusting me with the truth, all of it, not just the parts you think I can handle. Thorne stared at me for a long moment, and I watched something shift in those ice-blue eyes. A decision being made. A wall finally coming down. He straightened to his full height, and when he spoke, his voice carried the full weight of his authority as he, "You're right." He turned to Cashin, and his expression was steel. "Do your worst. Release the photos. Send them to the board. I don't care anymore. I'm not afraid of you, Vale." "You're willing to lose everything?" Cashin's voice had lost its smooth charm, replaced by something sharp and desperate. "Your company? Your reputation? The empire you built?" "Not everything," Thorne said quietly, his gaze never leaving mine. "Just the things that don't matter." The words hung in the air between us, and I felt something crack open in my chest, something warm and terrifying and absolutely overwhelming. Cashin's face contorted with rage. "You'll regret this, Ashwick. Both of you will." "Actually, I don't think they will." We all turned toward the door. Rowan stood there, phone held up and recording. His expression was grim, but there was a fierce protectiveness in his eyes that made me want to hug him. "Corporate espionage, blackmail, harassment, stalking, I've got it all recorded right here." Rowan's voice was steady, professional. "And you know what? I think the board would be very interested in hearing how their potential business partner operates. Along with the police. And probably several lawyers." The color drained from Cashin's face. "You have 5 seconds to get out of this building before I send this recording to every contact I have in HR departments across the city," Rowan continued. "And trust me, Vale, I have a lot of contacts. Good luck finding anyone willing to work with you after this." For a moment, I thought Cashin might try to fight back. But something in Rowan's expression, calm, determined, and absolutely done with his bullshit, must have convinced him he'd lost. "This isn't over," Cashin spat, but the threat sounded hollow now. He shoved past Rowan and disappeared down the hallway, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors. The three of us stood in silence for a moment. "So," Rowan said eventually, lowering his phone. "Anyone want to explain what the hell just happened? Because I've been standing outside this office for the last 10 minutes having a minor heart attack." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, and suddenly my legs felt like jelly. I stumbled backward, and Thorne was there instantly, his hands on my shoulders, steadying me. "You're shaking," he said softly. "Yeah, well, I just lied to a corporate blackmailer and basically committed career suicide, so I think I'm entitled to shake a little." "You didn't commit career suicide." His hands moved from my shoulders to cup my face, tilting it up so I had to meet his eyes. "You were incredible. Brave and brilliant and absolutely terrifying." "I was making it up as I went along," I admitted. "I still don't remember anything from Friday night." Something that might have been a smile, an actual, genuine smile, tugged at the corner of Thorne's mouth. "You really don't remember?" "No. The wish, the mistletoe magic, waking up in your bed, it's all a complete blur." "Then let me tell you what happened." His thumbs brushed across my cheekbones, and his voice dropped to something intimate and raw. "You made a wish to understand me. And for 12 hours, every wall I've spent years building came down. I told you everything, Lysander. About my family, about why I'm so cold, about how I've been watching you for months and falling more in love with you every single day." My breath caught. "You fell asleep in my arms around 3 in the morning, and I lay awake watching you and thinking that I'd never felt more terrified or more complete in my entire life." His forehead touched mine. "And when you woke up and didn't remember any of it, I thought maybe it was better that way. That you deserved someone who wasn't broken and closed off and dangerous to be around." "That's not your decision to make," I whispered. "I know that now." Still here," Rowan interjected. Still very confused. "Also, did someone say magic? Because I feel like we glossed over that part way too quickly." I laughed, actually laughed, and felt some of the tension drain from my body. Thorne stepped back slightly, giving me space but keeping one hand on my waist like he couldn't quite let go completely. "It's a long story," I told Rowan. "I've got time. And you're buying me coffee. Expensive coffee." This friendship just got way more complicated.